questions for me while we're waiting? I know I haven't started talking yet, but you can ask me anything you want. I'm a healer. I have two certification programs I've created. I teach people how to become healers. I love the work I do. I'm psychic, a bit of a medium. As you've been going around today, have any questions come into your mind that you wanted to ask some of the practitioners that you haven't had a chance to ask yet about this work? Pardon me? It's a good question. Yes.
How did you come to realize that you were psychic, etc.?
That's a great question. So how did I come to realize that I was psychic, etc.? And it is an etc. It's something I've been aware of all my life. And many people who do this work, that's a very familiar story, that we've always had an inkling, somehow we've known things ahead of time, or we've had dreams that have come true, or we've just known what to say to someone when they've needed our help. And for me, that was the foundation for my story. No matter where I went, no matter what I was doing, whether I was working in retail or working at the bank or working with kids, people would find me and start talking at me. And they would tell me all of these things about their lives that they wouldn't tell anybody else. In fact, that was often the comment I would receive is, I've never told anybody this before. Like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then inevitably, what I would say in response to them would be exactly what they needed to hear in that moment. And so the next thing would be, I never thought of it like that before. And so as I went through various careers, and this kept being the theme, I decided one day, I should get paid to do this work. That should be a thing that I do. Because I'm standing in the shopping line and someone's telling me their life story or about the fight and argument they had with their loved one that morning, and somehow the connection we have and what I'm saying in response to them is changing something for them. And that has value. Right? Anyone in the room is a counselor or a therapist or a psychotherapist? Is there anyone who talks to people for a living and helps them? There's a lot of value in that, isn't there? Why we hold space for people when we're able to have that conversation and really see them. And for a lot of my clients, when they come to see me, it's the first time in their lives that they've actually been seen without judgment, without feeling the need to apologize for themselves and their existence. They just get to be seen. So when I started to have those experiences for myself with the thought of, I could make a living doing this, this could be my work, this could be what I do, and I love it, I said yes to it. And that's how I started doing this as my business, as the work that I do, as the way that I show up in the world. Yeah, does that answer your question? Thank you. Anybody else? Sure.
If someone were to have these abilities, but they weren't on the strongest level, what advice would you give them for them to enhance their abilities?
Well, first of all, come and take my healer's course. But secondly, or any of my programs. But secondly, practice. Just keep practicing. And one of the things I'm going to be sharing with you today is about how you can access your own personal 3 levels of intuitive wisdom. And I'm going to take you through some exercises that are going to get you started in learning how to trust what it is that you are experiencing, what it is that you are feeling, the effects that you're having on others or that others are receiving from you. And even those experiences, the ones that seem like they're way out there. Like that person you saw out of the corner of your eye that nobody else saw. Or that smell that you picked up on of someone's perfume or cigarette, but there was nobody around who was smoking or who had that cigarette. How many people have had those kinds of experiences? Yeah. What about hearing voices? Okay, and what do you do when the men in white coats show up and ask you if you're hearing voices? No. You say no. That's right, because you may do good if they take you somewhere, but you're probably going to do more good if you stay out here with us. Hearing voices, smelling things that nobody else is smelling, having a knowing, a hunch, a gut feeling. These are all intuitive experiences, right? Your intuition is not something foreign to you. We are all intuitive beings, every single one of us. We're also psychic beings. So let's just look for a moment at the difference between the word psychic and the word intuition. What do you think of typically, stereotypically, when you hear the word psychic? Future. Who said the future? Future. Okay, great. What about someone who is psychic? What do you think is happening for someone who is psychic? Can they read your mind? Did somebody say yes? No, they can't. What, somebody over here said something? They get messages. They get messages. Sure, they get messages. I know it sometimes feels like they're reading your mind because they're picking up on these things that you think no one else knows about, and somehow they do. A good psychic isn't reading your mind because that would be invasive. That would be like they're reading your mail, which is illegal in Canada. We're not supposed to read other people's mail. We are entitled to privacy. In fact, here's a small rabbit hole. I personally believe that the reason we come back into the human form from whatever spirit form we may have in between our lifetimes is so we can have privacy. Privacy of our thoughts and privacy of our feelings. Because I believe that when we are in a non-corporeal body or non-corporeal form, there is no need to shield ourselves from other people knowing about us or knowing what we're thinking or us knowing what they're thinking because we're on a whole different level. There is no need for that. So we're just in constant communication with each other. But I feel like after a millennia or two of that, sometimes we feel like, I just want to have my own thoughts. And the place I can do that is if I come back into a human form where I'm encased, I'm in this body, and no one knows what's going on in my body. Right? No one knows what's going on in your body. No one knows what it feels like to be you. No one knows what you're thinking. No one knows what you're feeling. Pain is very subjective because I could describe to you what my pain is, but you're not feeling my pain, so you don't know. You could relate if it sounds familiar, but it's not going to be your pain, it's going to be my pain, right? Where I was going with this idea of psychic versus, or in conjunction with intuition, is that traditionally, at least in Western culture, stereotypically, we have an idea of a psychic. Maybe she or he works on the psychic hotline, and they tell you about tall, dark, and handsome, or that you're going to win the lottery. Maybe we have an image of, let's say, Disney and the crystal ball and the long, flowy skirts. Maybe we have an idea that a psychic is someone very different from you and I, that they know things we don't know, that we can't possibly understand, and we couldn't, under any circumstances, ever do what they do. But here's the kicker. You can, and you do, all the time. Psychic simply means of the mind. That's all it means. It's a Greek word, of the mind. That's where psychology comes from, where psychosis comes from. It's simply of the mind. So when someone is having a psychic moment, they're actually using their mind to tap into an external energy field where information is held, and then they are open to receiving that information and sharing it with others. And psychic is generally something that a person does for someone else. So when you go and you see some of the psychics upstairs, those people are doing something for you. They're telling you something you need to hear or something that you want to know about. They're also not telling you anything you don't already know on some level of your own knowing. Can you feel that for a moment? Okay. Intuition is generally something that we do for ourselves. I have a gut feeling. My gut says, don't go down that dark alley. Please don't go down that dark alley. If your gut says, don't go down that dark alley, that's your intuition. Or I just love that person. Oh my gosh, I just met them, but I'm so into them. That's an intuitive moment. Or, whoa, I don't want to have anything to do with that person. That's your intuition. Your intuition comes from your body. Here's a neat thing that I've learned. Your body will never lie to you. Do you believe me? It can't. It has no reason to. The first way in which you can access and work with and learn about your intuition is to trust your body. How many people in the room feel like they have the world's best relationship with their body? Just the cameraman. That's really honest. And isn't that profound? That nobody in the room went, me, I have the best relationship with my body. I think in our culture we're in constant conflict with our body because we're not taught how special these bodies are, right? Your body is the holiest of holies. It is the original temple. No church, synagogue, mosque in the world is as sacred as your body is. And your body will always tell you what it needs from you, how it can be at peak efficiency, how it can support you to carry you through this human journey. But most people that I work with, most people that I know, and in my own experience, is that we are disconnected from our body. And we have made our bodies sinful. Our religions have made our bodies sinful. Our culture has made our bodies sinful. We are to rise above our bodies in order to be spiritual. But here's what I would like to share with you today. I want you to come right back into your body. If you want to attain spiritual enlightenment, if you want to be the best version of yourself, get it on with your body, please. All the time, right? Seriously, this is your antenna. This is your first level of intuitive wisdom. This is your first structure of intuition. Housed in your body is your soul. Housed in your body is your energy. Housed in your body is your essence. Why would you not honor, love, and respect your body when it's doing this incredibly important job of carrying you through this life? Held in your body is your brain. And your brain it's a bit of fleshiness. There's a lot going on up there, a lot of electrodes firing and neural pathways opening up and closing down. And housed in your mind, which is actually your entire body, the physical, the energetic, the spiritual, the emotional, the intellectual. Housed in that body is all of your wisdom. Everything you need to know about every situation and circumstance that you will ever encounter in this lifetime or any others is in your body already. This is your first level of intuitive wisdom. If you can learn, scratch that, when you learn to trust your bodies, you will have all the answers that you're looking for because you already know them, right? To tie into the Akashic Records that Sarah was going to talk about today, you have this beautiful chakra center up here above your head. How many people know the chakras? Just want to make sure that we're okay. Cool. So energy centers in your body that govern certain experiences of being human. Basically, every single joint has a chakra in it. Not just the 7 main ones that most people are familiar with, but all over your body are these energy centers. Okay? And then outside in your aura, in your energy field, there are also energy centers, and that's where your 8th chakra is up here. Sometimes called your soul chakra. And it's within this center, it is believed that your Akashic Records are held, or your personal library, where every single thing you've ever experienced in every lifetime, past, present, and future, is held. Every solution to every situation, circumstance, and problem that you might find yourself in. It's all there. You are far wiser in your own human form than you ever give yourselves credit for. Maybe from now on it won't be a never, it'll be an always, right? But what do we do in our culture often when we're not sure, when we're confused, when we don't know what direction to take? We go outside of ourselves. We ask everybody around us, what should I do? What do you think I should do? Should I stay with him? Should I stay with that job? Should I take that position? Should I go on that trip? And instead of taking a moment to feel into the yes or the no of your question, you take it outside of yourself. That actually gets even more confusing than if you were to sit and listen to your own counsel, right? Because what somebody else thinks about the decisions that you need to make in your life is irrelevant to the decision you're finally going to make. It's going to be your decision anyways, no matter what. Free will resides in the first level of intuitive wisdom. We're very unique in the multiverse, in that in part of this human condition that we have and part of these human bodies that we experience is that we get to make choices. We have free will. I believe that you write a story for yourself before you come into each lifetime, and then you get here and you land, You're like, wee! I can do this, or I can do that. There's all these choices. It's like a buffet of choices. And maybe with all those choices, you actually step off the path that you wrote for yourself that you hoped that you were going to follow as closely as you could, based on all the past experiences that you've had, and you kind of step away from it. And then throughout your life, you get these course corrections. Okay. So the first level is your own self, your own wise self. Do you believe me when I tell you how brilliant and wise you are? Can you feel that? Please feel that. Please let that be true for you. It doesn't mean you can't ask other people for their advice, right? We're a social species. It matters that we interact with one another, and other people may have perceptions or perspectives that you hadn't thought about yet because you're like this. It's got to be this or this. And someone comes along and says, well, what about that? Oh, I hadn't thought about that. So it's not to say that it's a bad thing to ask people for guidance, but what it is to say is that inevitably you're going to have to come back to your own wisdom. So what if you start with your own wisdom, right? And then you can check in. You can say to your friends, hey, I just had this great idea. I'm going to climb the Himalayan mountains. What do you think? You know, and they can have their response to that. But ultimately, the decision is going to be yours. And I trust that you have the wisdom within your own physical bodies and emotional and intellectual and spiritual bodies to make those decisions. Because I know how amazing you are. I see it and I feel it. Right? You wouldn't be here if that weren't true. But here's the thing. Sometimes life feels really big, right? Sometimes there's a lot going on and it's overwhelming. And it feels like I'm just one human being and I don't have all the answers. What do I do now? Well, that's when you step into the second level of intuitive wisdom. Because we do have help. You're not meant to take this walk alone. This is why we have friends. This is why we have family. This is why we make connections. No one expects you to take this walk alone. So beyond your group of friends and those people that support you and that love you and that hold you up, I believe we have a team. I call them energy beings. Some people call them angels. Some people call them spirit guides. I don't care what you call them. They could be animals, they could be orbs, it doesn't matter. But it's the knowing that when we decide to come back into the human form, we have taken a great deal of time to decide what that life is going to look like. I don't think it's a snap decision. I think there's a whole lot of people that get to have a say. Your soul group, the other people that you're going to be interacting with when you come into this lifetime, your primary lovers, your children, your coworkers, all of that gets sorted out before you come down here. There's a lot going on over there. I won't even try to pretend that I understand all of it. It's like a supercomputer over there. And part of what gets decided is what team of energy beings are you going to bring with you, who choose to come with you, to help you walk through this life. I have a talk that I give on spirit guides. It's called Spirit Guides, Not Here to Save You, because they're not. And I'm going to touch on it a little bit today. So here's the thing about spirit guides. First of all, in the room, how many people feel like there are spirit guides or angels, know they've got some around them, have chatted with them, talked to them? Okay, cool. Spirit guides, I believe, can show up in a lot of different ways. They can show up as actual people in our lives. Angels too. Right? You hear stories about the car accident and the person that showed up and pulled the person out of the car and then nobody saw them again and they weren't part of the emergency team and nobody knew where they went. There's lots of stories about that, right? Energy's coming into physical form and helping us. Your energy beings, like any good counselor or therapist, will not tell you what to do, nor will they give you the answers on a silver platter, nor will they be able to see in their crystal ball the outcome. Their job is to keep an eye on you and to step in only when you have exhausted all other ways and channels of making those choices for yourself or moving through that experience on your own or with the help of the people that are around you. I had one woman ask me in a workshop on spirit guides, she said, "Do they watch me?" I said to her, like, "You mean in the shower?" or in bed. She said, yeah, I'm just kind of curious. No, no. I believe that anything who's an energy being has had to have the experience of being human, because this experience is one of the most challenging experiences that any soul is going to have to go through. So they know what that's like. They're going to respect that privacy. They don't really care what you do in the bathroom. They don't care what you do at night. That's not what they're here for. They're here to touch base on the bigger things, the bigger picture items that happen in your life, where you really do need that extra bit of help. Okay? So that second level of intuitive wisdom is the ability and capacity that you have to recognize when, I can't do this anymore by myself. I need outside help. So I'm going to pray, or I'm going to chant, or I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to walk my dog, and I'm going to open up my mind, and I'm going to say, help me. And if you truly need that help, if you truly and honestly have done everything you could possibly do with your own wisdom, and you still can't quite get it, they might show up to help you. I had another woman in a workshop say to me, but I asked. I got down on my hands and knees. I begged for help, and it didn't come. I said, what did you do? Well, I had to make a decision. I said, okay, and what was the outcome of that decision? Well, it turned out to be okay. So you know why you didn't hear anything when you were begging on your hands and knees? Because they knew you knew. And part of your journey and your process and your learning was in learning to trust that. And so like a good therapist or a good parent or a good friend, it's hands off most of the time. And I know this is contrary to a lot of teachings out there about spirit guides or angels. This idea that we can just ask and they will be there. They will be there the second you need them. They will be there the second you really, truly need them. But if you're going to be asking what to do for dinner or whether you should go out on that date, I guarantee you that's not their realm. That's not where they're going to step in, right? Is there anyone in the room who feels like they've had a profound spirit guide or angel encounter or experience? Okay, a few people. Would anybody be willing to share that with us? Does anyone feel like they want to do that? Yes, please.
I was going through a transitional phase of life, with career.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a really toxic job situation that I knew intuitively was not good for me, but I didn't go to work one day and I went to the beach. And at the beach, previously, maybe like a month before, I had found a Bible at this exact place, which was whatever, I kept it. But then the next time I go there, I was sitting on a rock and I was meditating about how I couldn't stand going to work and what would I do. And this man just showed up out of nowhere. And he looked a lot like my grandfather, who had passed, had an accent and whatnot. And he just sat down beside me, and then he just started asking me about my work and what I did. And it was just super bizarre. I feel like shaky about it right now. But he ended up just bringing up his own experience of working in the service industry in comparison to what he did now. And then he got onto the topic of gardening, and he all of a sudden started counseling me into getting a gardening job. Anyway, we talked for a little bit, and then he left, and I ended up, answering this ad on News Victoria, and it ended up connecting me to the most profound relationship with a mentor that I've ever had, and it was through the gardening, and it made me quit my job and everything, and I really don't think that was a human. It was so angelic.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Did everybody hear her story? Did you all hear that? Yeah, that's beautiful. And I've had experiences like that where people have just passed me by, but in that moment of connection, there's like something that happens, and I go, wow, okay, I should pay attention to that. I should listen to that. Because here's the other thing, and thank you for sharing that. Here's the other thing that my experience has been with these energy beings. It's not like a bolt of lightning. Sometimes. Maybe it's when you don't listen to that inner voice that says, don't walk down that dark alley. Maybe then it's a bolt of lightning. But most of the time, the answers are subtle. The help is subtle. And that free will piece still applies when we come into the second level of wisdom. It's that you choose whether or not you answer, whether you pay attention. A moment that I once had in Bolin Books that actually was part of what catapulted me into doing this work I was at Bull and Books with no children and no husband. It was the weirdest thing. I'm not even sure how it happened. But I'm standing there, and instead of being in the kids section and the nutrition section, I'm standing in front of the metaphysical section. And I'm always been involved in metaphysics. I've always loved it. I grew up in a family with a mother who loved the fae and the fairy, would ask me about my dreams every morning. And this was not a foreign concept to me, but I had stepped away from it when I started having my babies and got married and working, right? And I just stepped away from it. I didn't have the time, I thought. So there I am standing in front of the section, and it's all about angels. This angel book, that angel book, Doreen Virtue's angel book, Sylvia Browne's angel books, all the big names. I'm sitting there and I'm, yeah, it's angels. So overdone. I want something different. Not to be maligning the angels. I mean, they were lovely, but they get talked about a lot, right? So I'm standing there, and my hands are like this, and I'm going, what else is there? And a book drops into my hands from the bookshelf. There's nobody around the bookshelf. It's like, what the hell? So I look down, and it's Doreen Virtue's books, Healing with the Fairies. Healing with the Fairies. This should be in the D&D section. It's in the wrong place. This should be with mythical creatures. But one of the things that Doreen Virtue did early on in her career was to have the courage to stand in other ways of being psychic, being intuitive. She was the first person to really talk about fairies outside of the D&D realm or the Disney realm, right? And I was fascinated by that because I grew up in a house that loved the idea of the fae and fairies and nature elements and all that kind of stuff. So I started reading her book. Oh, I felt like I'd come home. Now, never mind where Doreen Virtue now is in her journey. At that point in time, she and I were like this. We totally connected over the fairy thing. And I ended up going down and taking her training. And that's what gave me my first sort of professional certification in doing this kind of work, right? But when that book dropped into my hands, I didn't have to accept it as something divine. I could have said, it's just what's the word? Thank you. It's just a coincidence. And what does this mean anyways? And this can't be for real. That would have been hard for me to do because of my background and my upbringing. I was pretty much like, okay, yeah, this means something. I better pay attention. But these are the ways in which this information can come in for us when we're asking for guidance and help. And at that time in my life, I didn't yet know that I needed the guidance and the help. I hadn't even asked yet because I was like this. My life is fine. My relationship is fine. Everything is fine. And I had my blinders on. I had stepped so far off the path that I had written for myself when I came in that I couldn't even see it. I couldn't see it through the forest of the trees that were all the things that I'd put in the way of me stepping back onto this path that I had written for myself. But what I knew is that when I started reading that book, something inside me just went, oh, that, what is that? I want that. And then I went to see a psychic, and she said to me, what do you want to do with your life? And I burst into tears. I said, I want to do what you do. And I hadn't known that until it came out of my mouth. And I said it. Like, oh, okay, wow. So these are some of the ways in which these energy beings, whatever you want to call them, show up in our lives to help us when they can see that we have strayed so far from the story we wrote for ourselves and that we're just not getting it. We're not seeing the red flags, right? Because the universe, your higher self, your angels and guides and whoever else they are, they're constantly course correcting you if you start to wander away, right? Because they know the conversation that they had with you before you came here where you said, this is what I want to do. And they go, okay, yeah, we're here for you when you don't, when you forget, when life gets in the way, right? Let's talk about those red flags for a moment. And this is going to take us into the third level of intuitive wisdom. What is a red flag? What does that mean when I say that? A warning. Yeah.
A feeling of danger.
Yeah, it could be. It could manifest as a feeling of danger. What else could it manifest as? A red flag. Yeah.
Anxiety.
Yes. Yeah, red flags show up in your body, right? I mean, in all honesty, and to be totally truthful with yourself, you have had red flags in your life, right? You've been in the toxic career, you've been in the toxic relationship, you've been in situations and places and times where you know you shouldn't be there, but you don't listen. You push through that. And you push through it for a lot of reasons, right? Sometimes it's convention. Sometimes it's because you don't want to upset someone. Sometimes it's because you don't know how to change the things that are in your life that you don't like or want. And sometimes you really can't. You know, if you're in an abusive relationship and it's not safe yet for you to come out of that relationship, it's not going to do any good to run away from it if you're only going to get pulled back into it, right? If you are in an abusive relationship, please seek the help that is available to you and that is out there. Don't isolate yourself within that experience, okay? I'm just going to say that as an aside and as a counselor and with a lot of the trauma work that I do with people. But having said that, when you have the capacity to recognize a red flag and you ignore it from your own higher self, and then you ignore it from your guides or your spirit guides or your angels or whomever, who do you think is going to step in? Who's going to step in?
No one?
You.
Did you say no one?
You mean like, no one's going to step in if we're ignoring the signs. We're the ones who are going to make the intervention. Or am I?
That is true, but not without help. So where's the help coming from? Where's the help coming from? The team? Who's above the team? Source. God. The universe. The big guns.
That's what I was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next team.
Yeah.
Cool. Like the CEOs. The CEO of your life, right? The energetic CEO. Yeah. Whatever you believe God to be, I don't care. I don't care because it doesn't matter to me. I don't care because there's 1,000 different ways that you can connect with the divine. And whatever way you do is good for you. That's awesome. Celebrate it. Open to it. Whatever it is. Whether it's Source, whether it's the flying spaghetti monster, whether it's Yahweh, whether it's the goddess or the God. There's 1,000 faces of the divine. 10,000, 100,000 faces. But I really believe firmly that there is something out there that is bigger than I am, and it has a say in my life and the way that I am in my life. It matters to whatever that energy is, that I show up in the best way that I know how to show up. But in the way that your energy beings or your spirit guides or whoever those individuals are have a hands-off approach, the universe's hands-off approach is even bigger. Because the universe has got a lot going on. How many billions of us are there on the planet right now? And we're just one planet. There's a belief that there's lots of other planets out there in all the various galaxies and universes where there is life. So we're not even the only ones that divine source has to look out for or chooses to look out for. But at a certain point in each person's life, events happen that are big, bigger than you are. These are your wake-up calls. This is when, never mind all the little red flags, this is like that great big huge flag at the end of the race that goes up and down like this, and you can't ignore it. You cannot ignore your wake-up calls. These are big events. These are the death of a loved one. This is the car crash that leaves you paralyzed. This is the relationship of a lifetime that falls apart and you are devastated. These are the big events that happen in our lives, the wake-up calls. And again, you have free will. You have free choice about what you're going to do with your wake-up calls. You could choose to be a victim to your wake-up calls. And these are not easy events to go through. So if that's your choice, that's your choice. It can be a hellish day when you can't walk. I'm not saying rise above it. What I'm saying is make it matter. Make your wake-up calls matter. If you've gotten to a point in your life where you have, for whatever reason, and there's no judgment, ignored every other warning, every other gut feeling, every other little red flag, and you've gotten yourself to your place where you wrote it in the story before you got here, and now you're at that point, and you need it to be that big, it will be that big. Because what it is meant to do is to shake you up, to wake you up, to pull the rug out from underneath you and get you asking the questions that you haven't been asking. What am I here for? What is my purpose? How can I serve? What needs to change in my life that up until this point I've been able to ignore, and now I can't anymore? Does this sound familiar to anyone? Anyone know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Mine came in a series of events. I had had so many red flags that I was very good at not seeing, brushing away, making okay. It'll be fine. I don't want to upset anybody. I can make this work. I can push through this. This will be okay. We'll be okay. Right? And then we got into a car accident. And I was driving. Well, I was actually parked. We were trying to park. Car comes screaming through the intersection. The driver goes to put his foot on the brake, and instead he puts his foot on the accelerator. Smashes into the back of our van. Thank God we were in a Dodge Caravan, my favorite car ever. But the impact was enough that his airbag went off. He slammed into the airbag. His whole front end was crumpled. And at the time, I was talking to my daughter, so I'm like this at the waiting to park, and I'm turned like this because she's dropped her crackers. And he hits on my side of the car. So I end up with spiral whiplash and a concussion. Thankfully, nobody else in the car was hurt. My girls were rattled, but they weren't hurt. My husband at the time, he was okay. It was just me and the driver. That wasn't the big wake-up call. That was the precursor. Sometimes it comes in stages, right? So the precursor was the accident that took me out of my work and took me out of the day-to-day things that I had been doing at the time, which was to be Wonder Woman and plow through everything. Does this sound familiar to anybody? I'm just going to make it work. I'm just going to make it work. I'll do everything. It's okay. Like, talk about martyr complex. Holy cow. But that's what I was taught as well. So I can't do those things anymore. I can't do my work. I can't lift my children. I can't drive. So I'm at home. Kind of bored. Like, shit, what am I going to do now? All the things that gave me meaning and purpose and gave me a sense of self-worth, they weren't there anymore because I couldn't do them. And then a connection happened. Bless Facebook. Connection happened through Facebook. And I'm reunited with somebody that I haven't seen or heard from or talked to in 20 years. The first love of my life. Now I'm still like this. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Except what is this? What the hell's going on here? Why is my body reacting like this is some exciting love affair when that's not what I was looking for and certainly not what I needed? So I thought. The universe will take you to the place that you cannot walk away from when you have ignored every other thing that it's tried to do to get your attention. Money problems, affairs on the other side of the relationship, mistrust, abuse, all that. All of that I could make okay, but what I couldn't make okay was my own heart responding to somebody else. I believe the universe brought that person into my life to say, we know you cannot ignore this. It's going to hurt like hell for the next couple of years, and you're going to have to make decisions you never thought you'd have to make, and you're going to have an impact on people's lives you never thought you were going to have, and you're going to have to take self-responsibility, self-accountability, and you're going to have to wake up. And here's how you're going to do it. Not an easy path. I write about it in the book that I've written, The Heart's Journey, Healing Hearts, Oracle Cards and Guidebook, to demonstrate part of what that healing journey can be, and then to also demonstrate how these other parts of our incredible wisdom help us. So when I was going through this wake up of, my gosh, my body suddenly feels alive again, and I can't ignore that as much as I want to, I said to the universe, show me a sign. Show me a sign that when I see it, I'll recognize it and I'll know that I'm on the right path. I'm following my heart. And the universe has a wonderful sense of humor. Guess what the universe started showing me? Hearts. Everywhere. Hearts in the clouds, hearts in stones on the beaches, hearts on the side of walls. And every time I tried to step back into the old dynamic, every time I tried to make it okay still, I would get flooded with these images of hearts. right? And at a certain point, I had to trust. I chose to trust. I didn't have to trust, but I chose to trust my heart above all other voices, right? So even when in the middle of the night, my mind said, you can't do this, you can't hurt people, it's not okay, my heart was saying, it's going to be okay. But you know you can't stay here because that path that you said you wanted to walk, it's not happening here. You tried, you really did try, you gave it your best shot, but it's not happening over here. So we're course correcting. And I believe that on some higher level of consciousness and awareness, I agreed to that. I knew, my soul knew. So did the soul of my former husband, so did the soul of both of my children, so did the soul of everyone and anyone who was connected and involved with my wake-up call. It's the same for you, right? This is what I'm talking about. Let's bring it back to that first level of intuitive wisdom. You know. I knew 10 years before this was not happy and it was not healthy, but I also knew we weren't done yet, right? Every relationship has a life force and we still needed to learn things from each other. We're still learning things from each other 12 years later, just in a different capacity. And on another level, I also knew, okay, wow, I can't do this by myself. So the guides and the energy beings stepped in, but I was really good at ignoring them. And so at a certain point, the universe said, there's work for you to do in this world, and you're not doing it. And we're tired of waiting, and we've given you every chance. And now we're stepping in, and we're saying, this is the wake-up call, and here's how it's going to roll. I don't mean to suggest that intuition and psychicness and spirit guides and God aren't benevolent and kind. But let's face it, as human beings, as a species, we're incredibly stubborn. We're very stubborn. We like things the way we like things. We will spend decades being uncomfortable in our discomfort or being comfortable in our discomfort. Right? It takes a bit of a 2x4 sometimes to get us to really see what we need to be doing in our lives. These challenges that we give to ourselves, that we agree to, our soul understands that we can do it. I know that whatever it is that you are going through in your life right now, you can do it. I don't care what it is, and I don't care what excuses you can come up with. You will not convince me otherwise. You can do this. You can climb that mountain, you can write that book, you can invite love into your life, you can say yes to that opportunity. You can do it. Do you believe me? Yeah. Good. Okay, my work is done. Not quite. I want to take you through some exercises. Would you like that? Can we connect in with our knowing in the time that we've got left? Okay, fabulous. So we're going to connect with our human wisdom first. Okay? All of this teaching that I'm sharing with you today has come out of a lifetime's worth of work, and it's also what I teach in my Confident Healer program, which is the 10-month certification program that certifies women healers to be mind, body, and soul healers. And it's also part of what you learn in the intuitive energy massage certifications, which is an energy healing modality I've created for both men and women to bring healing out into the world. These are the kinds of teachings that we do as we do our classes. Okay? So this is actually an exercise that my students are doing right now in the Confident Healer. So here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to think of a time when you knew deeply and with total conviction that you had the right answer, were making the best decision, and following the best path for yourself. As you connect with how it felt to be in the flow of knowing, allow this feeling to infuse your entire body. So take a moment, close your eyes if you want to. Don't have to, just be comfortable. Remember a time when you knew you were making the right choice for your highest good. And let your whole body feel that, every cell in your body feel what it was like to have that confidence. And even if you are having a hard time finding it, it's there. Maybe you go way back. It can be something really simple, like you knew to hold the door open for someone. You knew to share your lunch with someone. Right? It can be a little simple thing. It can be something big. It's entirely up to you. Okay. So with your body feeling that confidence in your ability to make wise choices for yourself, take a moment and allow your most important question that is in your life right now. It's right in front of you. Allow it to come into your awareness. So if we were in class, I'd have you write it down, but we're not in class. But you can jot it down on your phone or wherever when we're done. Okay, so with this question in your mind, with your body infused with this beautiful feeling of confidence, allow your higher self to answer that question without filtering or judging the response. What do you need to do to answer that question? Don't make it complicated, just let it be. First thing. Okay, and when you feel like you've received your answer, take a nice deep breath in, and on the exhale, let that answer settle into your body. And then I invite you, in the next 48 hours, do it. Take that answer and do it. Do something with it. Don't let it go to waste. Your higher self, your own self, just gave you a beautiful gift with that answer. Okay. Okay. Let's move into exercise number 2. Okay. I encourage you, take a moment too when we're done our talk, just jot a few notes down for yourself, because you're going to go up there or you're going to stay here for the next talk and other things are going to swirl around. And that answer is yours and it's in there. It can also be really helpful to record it somehow on your phone or whatever way you would do it. Tell your friend so that that accountability piece is there and you actually do take that action within the next 48 hours. Okay? Okay, so the next exercise that we're going to do is to connect with your spirit guide or your angel or your animal totem or your energy being, whatever it is, however it is that you perceive that. Okay? So same thing, you're going to take a moment to go sit. Well, we're already sitting. We're already quiet. We're going to go within. However you choose to do that. Om. Take a deep breath. Move into your body's knowing. Connect to your thinking mind. And ask a question that you already know the answer to. How many eggs in a dozen? What color was Washington's white horse? Quick, simple, easy answer to something you already know. What is my name? Okay, and hear the voice that answers you. Next, open a connection, whatever that looks like to you, between you and the angels, the spirit guides, the animal totems. Invite them to come to you and ask them, or the individual, whoever's shown up, a deeper question, such as, what is my life purpose? Who am I? What am I here for? Allow them to answer you without judging, without filtering. The answer doesn't have to be complicated. It could be a color, it could be a feeling, it could be a word, it could be an entire download. Just let it be whatever it is. Okay. Once you feel that you have your answer, take a deep breath. On the exhale, let the answer settle into your body. Out of curiosity, did anyone notice if it sounded or felt different when you answered your own question to when you received information from something outside of yourself? It doesn't have to be, but often it is. And the more you practice this, the more you can discern between your own wisdom, which has a very clear voice, and it's usually your own, and it talks to you, to information and guidance that may be coming through from an energy being, because generally that information comes in like this. It's a flood of information. Even if it's just one word or a feeling, it has a different kind of energy to it. Neither one is better or worse than the other, you're right? Because remember, your own inner wisdom is brilliant and incredible, right? But it is fun to get that sense of the difference in vibration, the difference in voices, so that you know where that information is coming from. Because if it's coming from your guides, I'd really like you to pay more attention to it. I'd love you to pay attention to your own inner wisdom, but by the time your guides are stepping in, like you really want to know what's going on there, and you want to listen, you want to pay attention.
Can you say that again? How do you know if it's coming in from spirit or your guides? What's the difference?
My experience has been that when something's coming in from outside of myself, it feels like a flood. Feels like I might want to slow it down so I can see each individual word, but that's not how the communication comes in. For me, it's a drop. It's an instant knowing. It's an instant infusion is a good word to describe it. I feel like I've been infused with the answer, that knowing. Yeah, is that helpful? Okay. The last exercise that we're going to do, this is one for you to take home to do. So I'm going to give you the instructions, and then I'm going to invite you to do it or not. It's entirely up to you. This is the one to connect in with the big guns. Okay, the universe. And here's how it goes. I want you to go back over your life. I invite you to go back over your life and think about every experience that you have had that you feel has significance for you. These can be big experiences, they can be little experiences. Some people's lists will be really long and some people's lists will be really short. Right? Things like, my mother died when I was 33. That's a big event in my life. This is a true event. Recently, my father passed away. That would be another event that I would put on that. When my then husband and I separated, that would be an event, a life event. My car accident. Things that happened to me when I was a teenager. These are the kinds of things that I invite you to think about in your life. Because the purpose of this is to give purpose and meaning to the events in your life. To begin to work with the understanding of why it is that you would invite these kinds of experiences into your story. Not from a place of judgment, not from a place of editing, but from a place of compassion and love. When you have completed that list to your satisfaction, and it may take a few days, it may just take an hour or two, set it aside. Go back to your day, and a couple of days later, come back to that list and read it again. And read it as if it belonged to someone else. And notice what you start to feel for that person. Notice the empathy. Notice the compassion. Notice the want to help, the want to heal that for that person as you stand observing their list of life events that have been meaningful to them, that have been painful to them, that have created trauma or wounding in their lives. Okay. When you get to the bottom of that list, I want you to remember something really, really important. That person that you're feeling compassion for and empathy for, and that person that you want to help, is you. That's you. And all of those events that you record on that piece of paper, they don't define you, but they do impact on who you are and how you show up in the world, in the way in which you choose them to do so. The reason that this is an exercise that connects us to the third level of intuitive wisdom is because you don't need to have the wake-up call if you've done the work by the time you get there, to that point in your life where the wake-up call was going to show up. It's like you put the wake-up calls in your story as insurance that you're going to have that jarring experience or that rug pulled up from underneath you. You're going to have that moment to wake up if you need it by the time you get there. So if you can do the work now, then when that event shows up, it's going to show up. It's not fate, it's what you already asked to have happen. It's what the decision was made. But what it could be is that you breeze through it. Or instead of it needing to be something that really gets your attention in a way that you can't ignore on a side that might be more difficult, it could become a wake-up call in a way that is absolutely supportive. Because Phil Donahue has called you and said, I want you on my show, or Oprah, or whoever, right? It could be a wake-up call where you go, oh, I have to say yes, or no, I don't know what to do. This is like the best problem ever to have, and it's going to change my life forever. Okay. Okay? It's not that the wake-up calls are bad things, and it's not that you shouldn't have to go through them. You can choose to go through them, that's fine. It's all part of the story. It's all part of the life as it unfolds for yourself. But you don't have to make it harder for yourself. You can go through this life with ease. Even the really, really challenging, awful things and parts of our lives that can happen for us. You can invite ease in, even though it isn't going to be easy. And you can invite ease in at the human level. You can invite ease in at the spirit guide level. And you can invite ease in from the universal level. Why not make it easy? Why not let it be easy? Why not choose that it could be easy? Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Be sure to come up to our booth, experience an IEM treatment. That's a great way to make life easier for you.